What's going on, guys? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about the new Xiu Xiu album. Xiu Xiu is a long-running experimental rock band fronted by Jamie Stewart, and for many years they've certainly confused and perplexed a lot of people. The early records in the Xiu Xiu catalog never really hit home with me. I wasn't into the grimier and post-punk sort of style, especially their very early lo-fi recordings. Over the years they've dabbled in everything from art rock to post-punk, but even when they're at their weirdest, I've always sort of enjoyed the more catchy side of Xiu Xiu, even though I know that that's not exactly the name of the game here. Fabulous Muscles, Women as Lovers, their reinterpretation of the Twin Peaks soundtrack, Always, and my personal favorite, Dear God, I Hate Myself, have always been real standouts for me in the Xiu Xiu catalog. These are certainly still tightly wound and hard to pinpoint albums, but for me, in these cases, Jamie's songwriting just seems so much more on point. But for me, they've also released quite a few albums that just have underwhelmed me and just confused me a little too much, like Les Ferrettes and Angel Guts Red Classroom. I'm sorry, I know that's a very popular one. Wasn't for me. Now, while I've always sort of enjoyed the poppier and more accessible side of Xiu Xiu, these new singles from this new album, Girl with a Basket of Fruit, have been anything but accessible. Let's chat about this new album. This album starts off with its title track, Girl with a Basket of Fruit, and honestly it wakes you up very quickly. It's a very alarming intro with some almost tribal drums and some of the freakiest grooves that you're going to hear all year. Jamie's performance here is actually one of his best of the album. He sounds absolutely tortured here. And the repeated mantra that is this track's chorus, it's just so damn hypnotizing. It's a legitimately great opener, and no matter how freaky and sort of loose this track comes off, it's still very tense, and this is still absolutely a Xiu Xiu track. Later on in the album, The Wrong Thing is incredibly memorable. Right off the bat, we get this sort of vocal sample of a poem, and of all the sampling here, this comes off probably the most concrete. This sounds like it has so much purpose. And Jamie's performance is one of his most tender and most straightforward of the bunch, actually. And this instrumental is so simple and is so straightforward, but it's so effective for Xiu Xiu. Call me crazy, I think this is one of the best tunes here. It's Xiu Xiu by the book, it's unbearably tense, it's catchy when it needs to be, it's just a great tune. Even that sort of release that we get at the end of the day is just so fantastic. Another great track here is Scissors. Very late in the album, this continues on with a very tense, very alarming sort of post-punk. This track is very hard to keep up with, it's very upbeat, very frantic. I absolutely love Jamie's performance here. He sounds like a caged animal that will just do absolutely anything to get out. And I just love everything about his performance here. This track is wild, and on all fronts, this is where I want to hear Xiu Xiu. I mean, don't expect any of the hooks or choruses that we got on their last album, Forget. I mean, obviously don't expect a lot of the choruses and hooks that popped up on their last album, Forget, but if that's my only complaint, this really isn't a bad tune at all. As a matter of fact, it's just a really great out there piece of art rock. And early on in the album, Ice Cream Truck really quickly builds up a lot of tension as well. I absolutely love the bizarre woodwinds here, and the drums that keep pounding and building up quickly are absolutely to die for. But it's around this moment where I'm starting to ask myself, what's going on here with Jamie's vocals? I don't want to take anything away from Ice Cream Truck, because when Jamie does explode for the chorus, this track is actually pretty awesome. But on these verses, Jamie just sounds cheesy. These guys have certainly, used altering effects and vocals before, but it's never come off like this before. Still, though, I do enjoy Ice Cream Truck. However, it's sort of beginning to become obvious that this album is very flawed. I'd say the best thing about Pumpkin Attack on Mommy and Daddy is its title. Overall, this track is completely all over the place. Once again, I'm totally into the grooves. They're sort of industrial. It's an interesting path for Xiu Xiu to go down. But the consistent use of samples here, it's just not what I showed up for. If these samples went on to tell a bigger story or go for some bigger concept, I would be all gravy, but I feel like they're just here to build a little tension, and honestly, I feel like Jamie can do that better himself. Instrumentally, though, I still feel like this is a pretty decent track. I have a lot of the same feelings on Mary Turner, Mary Turner. Instrumentally, once again, this is exciting, genuinely out there, too. Sure, you can argue that Xiu Xiu are literally just throwing a bunch of sounds your way, and guess what? You wouldn't be wrong. But once again, it's Jamie's performance here that I'm just not sold on. Once again, Xiu Xiu have absolutely worked with heavily affected vocals in the past, but this just seems like such a reach. I just sort of get the idea that some artsy band is trying desperately to be Xiu Xiu. Once again, instrumentally, this is fine, this is exciting, but it's the rest of the band that are just kind of watering this down. It comes out as a joke, is very quiet, very pensive of a tune, and you have to give Jamie credit here. He certainly is still very passionate for what he's doing, his performances are still very raw, but why do I just keep getting the feeling that Jamie has had so much more interesting things to say in the past? And yeah, this track does pick up a little when things get a little more upbeat, but still, I'm struggling to stay with Jamie on this track. Like, I don't know when Xiu Xiu stopped trying to create legitimate tension in their music, but they've literally recycled it and traded it in for honest-to-God jump scares. I literally feel like I'm listening to a SoundCloud artist trying to be Xiu Xiu. Like, I hate to keep making horror movie analogies, but I feel like Xiu Xiu used to be like this like slow-burning, suspenseful thriller, and now they've kind of traded that in for some cheap slasher flick. It's still fun, but it's not going to stick with you for the future. And Amargi Ve Mu is literally my least favorite track of the bunch. I do kind of have to give a shout out to some of Jamie's more whispered vocals. No matter what atmosphere he's in, no matter what he's even saying, his whispered vocals are always so unnerving. There are some like cool elements and parts, like I feel like that one lone cello playing is really creepy. But the rest of this track is just a little too stripped down for my liking. I feel like Xiu Xiu, a lot of this album, started things but didn't really come through with them. I feel like here they wanted to build an atmosphere, they had that on their mind, but just didn't do it all the way. Jamie ends up sounding fine here, but has absolutely nothing to fall back on. And some of these one-liners, man, like, I can't stress enough, Jamie used to be so much more interesting. And I don't know about you guys, but I did not expect a track like Normal Love to be our finale here. It's this very tender, sweet ballad that, honestly, for me at least, raises more questions than anything. I'm so through with this album at this point, I just don't have anything to say about Normal Love in general. The instrumental is average, Jamie's heart doesn't seem into this. I'm just super unimpressed all around, to be honest. So overall, I was really let down by this album. I still feel like at the end of the day, Jamie and company are real modern masters in tension and genuine experimentation, but way too much of this album is just them reaching a little bit too hard. I'm feeling a light 6 on this, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you like the video, be sure to like and subscribe, and let me know down below what you guys would like for me to chat about in the future. Until next time, have a good day, guys.